Kia ora, my name's Matt and I'm building a Sopwith Camel. I've finally managed to make some clips and I'm going to show you here. These little guys. These are trailing edge clips for a Sopwith Camel, and they hold an AMP 121 tubing, which is kind of an oval streamline shaped tubing at the end of the rib. And these are the first brackets I've been able to make. And my first attempt at metalwork. So I may as well leave the footage to do the talking for me. But yeah, quietly pleased, it's taken me several months to get to this point. It's been a lot of learning. So yeah, enjoy the clip. I'll follow up with a longer video later after I've sorted through the footage that I've got and tried to make it coherent, shall we say. Cool, talk soon. Cheers. It's taken a long time to get to this point. Here we've got a complete set of these guys and a complete set of these guys. 2 out of that set. I need another 6, and there's about another 60 of the thinnest ones, which are this size. So smaller than these ones again, and those ones. And that's the pack of scrap aluminium that I've created in the process of creating these brackets. You may recall I deliberately picked the simplest bracket possible in the aircraft, which are these trailing edge clips, and they turned out to be not quite so simple, mostly because I lack experience reinventing all the mistakes, and I mean all the mistakes. I've now got a 3-page document on the various things I had to try and figure out, and the equations I had to do to work out things like bend radiuses. And there's actually 2 bends on this. The drawings only show 1. And the fact that the AMP tubing has a steeper angle than does the actual rib profile. Hence you can see the kink going on there. Just silly little things like that. Figuring out that, hold on a sec, my screws are too long, before realising that I was genuinely looking at a longer screw, and I had to order more screws in. Being concerned that the centre hole here, which is closest to the trailing edge, is in a spot where it doesn't have enough meat to bite into. If that centre hole, well, correctly the one at the bottom, if that gap there means the screws bouncing off the other side of the metal bracket, then it won't sit properly. So I had to figure that out as well. There's the issue of some of the ribs only have 2 inches of timber on them, and that's 2 1/4 inches from there to there. In fact, this one might actually be a little bit longer because I've deliberately made some other adjustments, and those adjustments are related to, we've got some over here. Here's some of the scrap ones. Those holes are too close together, which means the screws aren't quite on top of each other, but getting close. And that became more apparent when I made the first 6 of those, and those screws were on top of each other, and I'm not entirely sure why, because they came out of the same jig as those ones. But in fixing these ones clearly don't come in on top of each other. In fixing these, I decided to throw those 5 out, which I've already primed, and start those from scratch again as well. Not getting the countersinking right. So in here, why would I reject that one? Not sure, I've got so much scrap in here now. Here we go, it's an example. I can tell this by eye, it's going to be much harder on the video camera, but those countersinks are too aggressive. And I thought I had them right, and I got the first 5 right, I know because I checked, and that's those 5 there, and assumed I could then get the rest right, because there's a high degree of touch and feel when it comes to creating these countersinks, and I didn't have it right, and only took one of these 4 holes to be wrong for the entire piece to be ruined. So yeah, essentially what I've learned is that try to do things in a production line, which is my tendency to do in hindsight, is not a great idea when you don't have the skills to back that up. So as a result, each one of these has been individually crafted and individually measured, individually cut. I've avoided any use of production line processes in order to get these guys through and done. Yet to do is 64 of these to replace these ones, and 8 of those, and 8 of these ones which are slightly shorter, which I've already got. I just need to sand them and bend them and prime them, and they will be okay, fingers crossed. So yeah, so that's where I am at the moment. I've got the hammer there for scale, although you probably don't need it because my hand's in the way. So I've finally got something to show for the last few weeks of work, which I'm quite pleased about. This is the clips I've been working on, the box rib and the standard ribs. There's variation on widths for this particular one. What I actually wanted to show you was my notes. So this is a Word document that I've been keeping running since I've started this project, just to make notes, capture thoughts, capture my workings, knowing darn well at some point I may need to come back to them and figure it out all over again. I'm pretty good once I get the hang of things, but remembering details, I rely on paper for that. So what I want to show you here was this issues list that I had to work through. So the bend angles, what were the bend angles required? I had to figure out the actual angles needed to be bent. What's the bend capacity of 2024 T3? What are the bend allowances? That makes a difference for how big you actually want to make your flats. What's the flat dimension for a standard clip? No problems. What's the flat dimension for what I've termed a short clip, which deals with that 2 inches worth of timber? Where does the first screw hole location go? Now that 3/8 inch screw to bed properly, and it took me a while to figure out it's a 3/8 inch screw, not a 1/2 inch screw, even though it does say so on the plans. And you can, like for example there, but you don't always spot that straight away. But that had me going for a little while. Where does the first bend location go? Keeping that consistent and correct. And what's the spring back on the bend? So, and I've now got, just for these clips, oops, I don't. I've now got 3 pages of calculations and stuff to figure these things out. The bend angles of AMP 121 tubing, which is the name of the tube that forms the trailing edge. So what are the bend angles? Well, the first one turns out to be 154.5 degrees, and the second one 15 degrees. What's the bend capacity? And how do you work that out? So, and this is a matter of first finding what the rule of thumb is, establishing that the bend I want is less than the rule of thumb, which is bad, and then trying to figure out actually what are the factors that makes up that rule of thumb. And once you can know that, then you can start quantifying where you need extra strength. So for example, if I hadn't already cut the clips so that the bend was perpendicular to the grain, across the grain, I would, from this research, I would have then gone back, paid more attention to the grain, and then given that a go to see if that made a difference. Elasticity calculation, and this is the calculation that you use to figure out what your rule of thumb is. Intuition check of elasticity calculation to make sure that the elasticity needed for a standard bend, T3 bend, is actually within the rule of thumb, which it is. Bend allowances for both bends, what are the dimensions you want, calculating those, short flat dimensions, first screw holes, where did they go, and what is my thinking for the choices that I've made. And there's lots of choices you can make. First bend location, keeping that consistent and correct, and I did that initially from drawing a sight line, and now I've used a stop, which basically is based on the sight line, but it means I don't need to draw sight lines and everything. And spring back, and after lots of research over the last few days, I can't find anything which is definitive around how much spring back to allow for in 2024 T3, except through experimentation. So that's where I am at the moment. So I'm recording this now because I think I'm just about to finish off those first 5 clips, the short ones, these guys, but they're only 3/8 of an inch wide, and I'll finish those. I'll spray paint those with the aircraft undercoat that I've got, and then they'll be done. then I can start working on the others. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. As you probably gathered from these two clips, I've spent a lot of time not achieving anything, and it's hard to make a decent video on having not achieved anything productive. So I've got lots of footage. I'll see what I can do about knocking it together to make something coherent, perhaps a process of stepping through what I've finally figured out actually works and how I did it. But I'll work on that over the next few weeks. But in the meantime, I'm going to crack on with these little babies. And these are the clips I've knocked out today on the guillotine, just in the process of marking them up. They've been blued, these guys have been marked up, and these guys have been punched with the optical punch. So I'll slowly work on these over the next week. So yeah, I'll see you again soon. Cheers.